Good morning, 142. I'm assuming that you're picking up this video um, just before we begin a Zoom session. It's a wonderful job to review those initial take-home listening and speaking assignments because we really get a concentrated dose of the individual in our English section. Because let's face it, when this is done through the camera, the majority of you don't bother to turn on your cameras. I'm looking at a blank screen, so I don't know how you interact with our class, whether it be in speaking, listening, or in the grammar class, because we're doing these things over Zoom. And when we do meet on Thursdays, I have a pretty good sense of what you're like, provided you show up. But we don't have full class attendance on Thursdays. It's pretty good, but it's not perfect. I'm still waiting. Yeah, I'm actually still waiting to meet a few people in person. And this news video goes out to all of you. That includes the people who seem to think that the course can be done asynchronously. That may be the case for this assignment. True. And we have a few more assignments that you can do away from the classroom, only to upload it later and then receive grades. But for this one, it was very specific. And if you had the benefit of being in class on Thursdays, you would have heard me say ad nauseum, fancy Latin for this guy repeats himself a lot. So much so it annoys me. I'm so sorry. For those people who got it on the first try, the second try, maybe even the third reminder, this comes as a little bit annoying. But we have to be really clear that I've done my job by letting you know through in-person meetings, over Zooms, in the news, and the instructions on those assignments that we have to believe you are capable of reading and know what your responsibilities are. There are no exceptions, really, unless you can provide some documentation that tells me I need to accommodate you missing multiple reminders to take care of the transcript typed out. Double-spaced would be ideal, but that had to be included with 2 videos. We decided as a class it would probably be easier to manage and you wouldn't forget to do the second video. But some of you do. It drives me nuts. And the last part of this video, as a courtesy, will be taking up the discrete pronunciation, the part 2. The majority of you did, but some still, for whatever reason, forgot to scroll down to the bottom, maybe, of the instruction page, or didn't download the rubric to see, hey, there's a separate chart for part 2 and part 1. Part 1's worth 20 marks. Part 2's worth 5 marks. Let's talk about part 1 first. And part 1, as I said, it's lovely for the teacher to get a feel for how people see things, how you process things, maybe how you filter things. The idea here is to elicit, that means to encourage or get you to open up and start to express your views on the topic, which you may have noted was strangely parallel to the Aspire sessions. That wasn't coincidental. This content score out of 5 marks was done exceptionally well, where people seem to really think about how they might avoid triggering themselves from doing something they know they shouldn't be doing. The bad habits. Oh gosh, there's no end of song, and I promise you this video won't include a song. But we know better, and sometimes we can't figure out why it is we do the things we do. Hence the TED Talk. Hence, let's call him a psychologist, but he's doing research on the brain, maybe even a neurologist, which is heavy duty. But that TED Talk seemed to resonate with people, and they picked out, I think, the core principles without going too techie, right? And there was no expectation for you to comment on his research, although there was the opportunity to point out something about it, I suppose. That wasn't the point. It was more about how you would presumably take the advice he gave and appropriate it for your own lives, maybe. Just like when we meet Marlin husbands in our Aspire sessions on Thursdays. We get 2 more chances, by the way. So those of you who missed the opportunity to do the discussion board follow-up reflection, worth 1%, we'll have another chance to do Aspire 2 and Aspire 3. Slightly different subjects, but part of the Aspire basket of strategies that the college has painstakingly prepared. They put a lot of effort into those. I don't know if we call them slide decks, but that website that hosts Marlin Husband's advice is really a special one. It has transferability. Like, that thing represents suggestions on how to do better across your courses at Centennial, not just in English. I'd like to think English was all that, but no, I'm talking about the universality of the TED Talk and also the Aspire sessions. And so you all can be very proud of part 1 that was done, like according to the instructions, right? Where you also selected a couple of words you felt were interesting and explained them, etc., etc. You know, the conclusion to me probably represented the best chance for you to express yourselves, because the opening, as always, is about basic comprehension. So you would be stating the main idea. You know, basically what was the good doctor saying in his TED Talk, and then the second part of that was just providing some evidence, some examples of what he was using to back up his, I would call it a theory, but because he has so much evidence, it's more than that. It's kind of like factual reporting on basic human temptation. I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing with you, because this teacher is just as susceptible, just as vulnerable. It's hard to find the balance, right? Where you try so hard to change your ways and enforce discipline, but sometimes that bites you on them. It does, because you try too hard. And there was some simple advice about relaxing a little bit and not trying to out the tendencies, the desire entirely. It's perfectly natural. So I really liked, I hope you did too, I really liked his approach where he was saying, you know, we are flawed and it's okay. You don't have to beat yourselves up for having these weaknesses. To him, it represented opportunities to improve, right? And that's a really great way to approach life. Life is hard. It is difficult, full of challenges as opposed to problems, right? That view of life, is it a glass half empty or half full? I use this on my students all the time. It's a great analogy, right? It's really telling about how positive or optimistic a person is versus how cynical, potentially negative a person has become. But like the presenter in the TED Talk, I'm also of the mind that people are optimistic. We are hardwired to survive and look at what makes life difficult and use our brains, our ingenuity to overcome those obstacles, barriers. I mean, you can throw up a whole bunch of negative words, but you know, in the end, making the effort to combat those makes you a better person, makes you a smarter person, even with all the failure that comes along with that, because you don't often nail it on the first try. Which is why in part 2, we asked people to repeat the phrases. And if they didn't, it just probably didn't bode well. That by repeating the phrase, there's an effort to correct yourself, even if you've rehearsed it 3 or 4 times before you recorded it. I guess the ear starts to be trained. So with the practice, makes perfect. But by repeating the phrases twice, it gives your brain a chance to properly pronounce and stress those syllables that needed stressing. In the same way, we don't want you to ever rush the part 1, the speech, the thing that has like this transcript that's a page long, typed out, double-spaced. We want you to take your time and not rush through and be uptight because it influences your pronunciation. And so I'm recalling the Super 7 speaking guidelines that's in the week 4 module of our course shell. And we had encouraged you through the week to review it. It didn't mean you had to memorize and master all 7, but there is something at the very end called relaxation. And people may have been a little frustrated in that, Mark, that's a big ask. You've tasked me with a challenging assignment, and so easy for you to say. I get that, but with familiarity, you can create this impression, create an aura that you're in control, that you're comfortable with the content. I mean, it's your answer after all, so we should be already, but we're self-conscious of our flaws, right? It's really hard not to judge oneself. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. And so we're asking in these assignments for you to kind of let go. Naturally let go. The joy of letting go. What's up? Psst. Oh, people are hating me right now. Yeah, I stole that shamelessly from the TED Talk presenter. No, it really has an impact on how you deliver your speech. And if you're uptight, you don't remember to pause. That's another one of the Super 7 speaking guidelines, isn't it? Pause is incredibly important because it allows me to refuel and emphasize the key word that I need to communicate to my listeners. Being forced. Then again, you could just fast forward through this video. That's the beauty of asynchronous course delivery, isn't it? When your teacher's not there in real time, you won't know the difference if you skipped. You just fast forwarded. It's crazy, but that's what my daughters do now when they're watching streamed content. We never had this when I was growing up. And I can tell you that movie producers, television producers, they hate the fact that because content's streamable, people miss some really important stuff. I don't know if you buy that and if you're actually watching me from start to finish. But I want you to remember the Super 7 speaking guidelines are in the week 4 module. You will use that again. Refer to it next time you have a take-home listening speaking assignment closer to the end of the semester because it's invaluable. It tells you that pronunciation is not just, or I should say, being a good speaker is not just about pronunciation. True, those 2 key points of the accurate sound, vowels, consonants, and the stressing combine for proper pronunciation. But there's something right below that on the Super 7 speaking guidelines. It's enunciation, that clarity of sound, how you project. It's a very physical thing where you have to draw power from your diaphragm. That's deep down here below the vocal cords. So you're not just with your throat. You'll burn out. You'll strip your vocal cords. Anybody gone to a concert lately? You know what I'm saying? When you're out there screaming and having a great time, pretty much throating your glee and your cheering. It takes you a week to recover your voice. Sounds like you have laryngitis when you return to work or school the next day. That's not healthy. That's not good vocal hygiene. That's not the way you're built. You're built to use the diaphragm. Posture is important, to access that diaphragm deep down and let the sound resonate, to be shaped by your vocal cords, and then finally through your mouth muscles. It must come from proper posture. So when you do your videos next time, remember that you want to sit tall. We usually say stand up straight, but more likely we're sitting. You could use that telescopic, I guess, desk, the thing that I've got, like at the front of the E314. Some people have their computers set up that way, where they do their video from the counter. That works too if you want to do your video standing up, to help remind you to stand tall. That means the back of your head is upright. You're not leaning and you're not slouched with your shoulders. These things really affect the sound. The sound quality is improved a lot. You are able to project your voice, which covers enunciation. You're able to generate the emphasis of keywords, and that is critical for success at intonation. That's the culmination of many things working together at once. The hardest, arguably, of the group of 7, I'm not talking Canadian art. The intonation is the one that makes you fluent. So if anyone was wondering, what does fluency mean at the bottom of part 1 rubric score, it's about how you navigate the pauses, the emphasis, and avoid. I just want to talk about my video about the TED Talk that happened on Monday. That's tough for the educator to listen. It happens. Not everyone is born a speaker. It takes time to practice and overcome shyness, boredom. It does take a kind of energy to break through that barrier that's the comfort zone for some people, but no good when you're being evaluated for presentation technique. Yeah, this is a speaking component. This is the oral component. This is worth 20%. I mean, this assignment and the final take-home listening and speaking assignment, together, their combined worth is 20%. So it's no small thing. And you want to begin trying things out right here in our class. Maybe in the Zoom. Definitely on our Thursdays if we're not doing a test and we're told we are now in lockdown. Test conditions apply. That's a different story. But, we are trying to encourage you to look for other opportunities as well. Like, let's talk at the English Tutoring Center. ETC has a workshop. That means multiple people can come. I think they have a cap of 12 people max, but they occupy the room and they talk about it's a chance for you very casually to improve and build your confidence when speaking, if you don't have the opportunity to do so in class. But I say, if that's the case, at the very least, would you please try your best to improve on this first stab at oral communications in 142. It's a nice assignment, the way it's built, where you take it home, you can practice, you get it just right before uploading the video that you're really satisfied with. And I'll be proud of it. Be proud of it. The scores are generally higher in the take-home listening and speaking assignments than they are in the reading and writing tests. Therefore, watch for the opportunities to come back, improve. This was a great treat for me. I hope you enjoyed that TED Talk too. Now I'm going to take up part 2, discrete pronunciation of this assignment, in which people were told to read each phrase twice and someplace record the number of syllables for that phrase. For most of you, I think typing it out or cutting and pasting the little chart on the rubric into your transcript was the best way to take care of it. But for the purposes of this video, and you could have done this too, you would simply add the number at the end of each phrase that you said twice. So here we go. Hard to pay attention. Hard to pay attention. 6 syllables. Repeat the process. Repeat the process. 5 syllables. Reinforcement. Reinforcement. 4 syllables. Trigger, behavior, reward. Trigger, behavior, reward. 7 syllables. Smells like stinky cheese. Smells like stinky cheese. 5 syllables. Knowledge becomes wisdom. Knowledge becomes wisdom. 6 syllables. Disenchanted stance. Disenchanted stance. 5 syllables. Naturally letting go. Naturally letting go. 6 syllables. Supported by curiosity. Supported by curiosity. 9 syllables. The joy of letting go. The joy of letting go. 6 syllables. My thanks to everyone who worked on their final sounds, beginning sounds, did their very best to use technology to potentially improve their pronunciation. It's a great exercise, but nothing but pronunciation, right? Take care, everybody. We'll see you in class real soon.